Hello, everybody. Welcome into a Wednesday edition of Running Point, brought to you by Greenwood Chevrolet in Austin Town. I'm Anthony Hartwig, as always, joined by Ty Bartell. And today we have a special guest in the studio, head coach of the girls and boys soccer team at Salem, Mike Bailey. Coach, thanks for giving us your time. I know this year it's got to be a little bit more valuable than ever before.
A little bit, but yeah, excited to be here. First time here in the studio, and what an awesome place. And thanks for having me. I appreciate all you guys do for our sport.
We definitely look forward to more and more guests in the studio. We thank you for coming down, of course. And we start with an interview right off the bat. And explain to us what's kind of going on with the Salem soccer program and the tri-coach kind of system that you guys have set up for yourselves.
Yeah, so it's a really exciting time for us. You have Ken Paulini, who was last year's girls head coach, Travis Ziegler, who was last season's boys head coach, and then myself. We've kind of teamed up as tri head coaches here. It's been a really great experience so far. Travis and I, we talk all the time. I was his assistant coach last year at Salem when Kent was looking for some assistant coaches on the girls side, and Travis and I got to thinking, and we decided let's approach Kent and see what he thinks. And the three of us met and we kind of talked and we worked out some things we thought might be a problem. And then we told Kent, hey, take your time here because this is a big time commitment. And, he's getting married here during season at some point, late October, early November. And so we wanted him to make sure he was on board. He took his time and came back with some questions and we sorted everything out. And all three of us were ready for it. We're ready to make a go of this and give our kids the best opportunity.
Coach, my question for you, interestingly enough, coaching both boys and girls soccer, some might think of all the similarities that might come with it, and we already know it's a full plate. Talk to me a little bit about the differences in coaching boys and girls. What are those differences, and how do you kind of incorporate them on the field?
To be honest with you, we've kind of taken an approach that there's not a lot of difference. It's all about personalities, whether that's on the boys' side or the girls' side. It's knowing your players, knowing how they respond. Some of them need that extra push. Some of them, need that extra supportive words. And we've kind of taken that approach. Like, we're going to coach this the same way, whether it's a girls' team, whether it's a boys' team. We're going to expect the same things. We're going to hold everybody to that same standard. And I think the kids have really, really responded well to it. It's a great group of kids. Both sides, we've got good leadership on both sides with the girls and boys, and it's something that just is continuing to build as the season grows here. Over the summer was a big time for us, as it is for all the programs. Had good numbers all summer long on the girls side. Boys side, our numbers are a little bit lower, around 18, 19 boys in total. But between vacations and work and everything, we still had some good numbers. It's our approach is pretty much the same. Like I said, it's just about knowing individual players mainly for us and knowing how each player ticks.
So when we cover boys and girls basketball, it's usually mostly the same, but there are slight differences in strategic ways that you coach a game. Are there any strategic or fundamental differences in girls and boys soccer, or is it pretty much, X's and O's the same thing?
There's definitely some differences. The boys, we tend to play a lot more possession style, but don't get me wrong, we still push that with the girls. The only reason why we maybe do things a tad bit different is we have on the girls' side two really, really strong strikers up top, and sophomore Riley Hutton and senior Abby Perry. They're both completely different players, and it's awesome for us to have like a two-headed monster there up top on the girls' side, because Riley is one of the fastest players in the area, and she's great at finishing the ball in a one-on-one scenario with the keeper. Abby Perry is just phenomenal on and off the ball. She's done a really great job here in the early part of doing what is asked for her and maybe taking on a couple new roles. But that's more so we're catering more to what our team is as opposed to how we perceive, girls soccer played one way, boys soccer played the other.
Coach, my question for you, it's a two-parter question, actually. So my first question for you is the culture being what it is, or the culture that you've created over the years. Do you plan on incorporating it to be the same on both the boys and girls side? I know you said that there's similarities in the way you play with that and the culture. Second part of the question, do you find it easier or harder, or do you expect it to be easier or harder to recruit and get that community involvement being both the boys and girls soccer coach as far as soccer as a sport is concerned?
Well, to touch on the culture one, that's actually been one of our huge points of emphasis, especially as, Kent and Travis and I as a coaching staff. We want this soccer culture of Salem to really be about, we show up and we train the right way every day, no matter who's coaching that session. We get after it. We treat each other with respect. We do things the right way. That is our biggest focus as a coaching staff, is making sure culture-wise, both the boys and the girls are on the same page. We hold everybody to the same standard. And to talk about, community involvement, a big thing with that, we're actually really blessed in Salem. We have some great people that follow our programs on both sides, and bringing everything together with the same coaching staff and the players knowing each other even more so than you typically would. It's really developing into something awesome. And it's just the start of it. And there's lots of great things that we have planned. And, we've had fundraisers that the girls team just ran by themselves in the past. And now we've incorporated the boys to where both sides are doing it. And we're just trying to really make sure we treat both programs exactly the same, because that's what those kids deserve.
With this new system with the 3 coaches, I imagine it takes a really great chemistry between you guys and a really great camaraderie between you guys. Talk about that dynamic and what it's like to have that with a group of 3 coaches and being able to just work together so smoothly.
It's been really great. Like I said, there's a past relationship between the 3 of us. I coached Kent back in the day when he was like a U14 travel player for a season. Travis coached Kent when he was in high school. So we know each other, and I've known Travis for years. I actually used to work construction for Travis back in like my early 20s. For a couple of years I worked with him, and it was just he and I building houses, garages, all the good stuff. So there was already, camaraderie there between the 3 of us, and we all 3 have been on the same page as far as we wouldn't attempt to do this, because it is something very different, something outside the box. And we wouldn't attempt to do it if we didn't feel that, one, we could make it work individually each, but also just as important, that we could give the kids the best experience possible there. It's been a really, really great experience. Like I said, we have also an assistant coach on the boys' side, Garrett Dickey. And then we have kind of like a team manager, momager, who's a younger player, or former younger player, Emma Minnemeyer. She's on the girls' side in that capacity. So, the 5 of us the 6 of us every week, we meet at my building and we have a coaches meeting, and we always say there's an hour and a half time limit here, and then we're out of here. And we're always there 2.5 hours. The meeting ends usually about an hour and a half, but then we start talking and we're hanging around, and it just never ends. So
that rule goes right out the window.
It does. It's gone like instantly. We've done it one time, I think, where we've had the meeting last an hour and a half. And to be honest with you, that was probably because there was a USA men's soccer match going on, and we all wanted to get out there and go
Gold
watch
Cup against Mexico.
Yeah, awesome. Great match. Yeah.
I know you did this a little bit earlier, Coach, but just to touch on it again, talking about how passionate Salem fans are, highlight a couple other players too on both the girls and boys teams for us to watch out for that aren't Salem fans that are watching in this year. And also, if I had a ticket to buy 1 boys and 1 girls Salem soccer game, which games am I going to this year?
Ooh, some tough questions.
Yeah,
okay, I like that. Though. Well, let's start with the boys. So, I'm sorry, that chair keeps squeaking. That's my fault. So on the boys' side of it, definitely, one of our returning captains from last year is Max Kometz. Going to be, we're not sure exactly where Max is going to play just yet, because he can play many roles. And he's an awesome leader for us. So we're still figuring out some pieces there. We've got some talent all over the board with the boys and the girls. Up top on the boys' side, we have sophomores Cade Pasco and Lance Bailey. Cade is a player who really dedicates himself to the game. He plays club ball. He plays year-round. Really, really improved his game this offseason. Tim Stevens and A.R. Berlin. A.R. is an outside midfielder for us, and you want to see somebody work. Come watch A.R. Berlin work on the sideline during a game. This kid gets up, he gets back. We are demanding of our outside mids, and he responds every time. Tim is a player, again, another kid that took this off season and really, really applied himself. Went and played some club, learned a lot, really took a serious approach to things, and it's paying off for him big time. He's going to probably be somewhere in the middle for us, whether that's an attacking mid or a holding mid, but he's doing a phenomenal job. We've also got senior Caleb Shafer. He was an outside back for us. He's probably going to fill that role again, but just somebody that is super quiet, super quiet, but he is like a lead by example kid. Shows up, gets a job done, never complains, is always working hard, just somebody you can really, really trust. Then we have, at least 2 freshmen that are going to be in that starting lineup. Our goalkeeper, Andrew Beck, we call him Big Andy. He's a big, tall kid. Not a goalkeeper by trade, but I tell you what, one of the things I do is I train our goalkeepers on both sides, and he is one of the most coachable kids I've been around. He has made leaps and bounds, and improvement. And then Corey Plunkett is another kid. He's going to be in the middle for us probably, or maybe on the outside. And if you saw him play, you would not think he is a freshman. Another kid that takes the game very seriously, plays outside, plays inside, gets the ball on his foot. He communicates. Some really, really good stuff. And there's a couple other, really strong players still. We actually we got one of the Salem basketball players, John Nall, is coming out, and to have, a 6'2", 6'3" kid that can maybe jump over the goal on a good day if he wanted to. It's an awesome addition to have. We've got Camden Sampson, another outside mid or fullback that's really coming into his own. There's just some really good pieces all around. And, our freshman class on the boys' side, phenomenal. There's 9 kids in that class now. And, we've got 2 that are probably going to be starters. And then you got another 2 that are looking at getting some significant minutes, probably in Luke Davis and Troy Gibson. And then there's some other guys just battling in the mix there. It's we're not deep in numbers, but the talent is there, and we feel very confident in what we have.
One of the things that I have to ask as someone that is trying to get into soccer, trying to learn the lingo to cover it better. I'm sure you get a lot of casual fans with kids like you said, like Noel, who's coming off the basketball program, just trying to get into soccer. What's one of the common misconceptions that you have to constantly correct people about your sport, or one of the things that is the hardest for people to kind of comprehend?
Mostly
it's people think offsides, soccer. Right?
Offside's a huge one. That's a huge one. That's always tough to explain to people. But I think the misconception is everybody thinks that soccer is this game that's played on this big field, and there's 11v11. You take a ball and you kick it around and you put it in a big goal. And that is not the case. There's so many intricate little tiny details that matter, whether, just like any sport, whether, you open this way or you turn this way, little things that matter. But offsides for sure is the one that gets everybody. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I'm
definitely trying offsides. Sometimes when you watch the replay for like one of the international games,
right,
they call offsides. And you look at all the angles and you still say, I don't see it.
Right. It's one of those things. And, to be a referee, because I used to be an official as well, it's a tough job. And, like you see, like you're talking about the internet where they have VAR, the virtual assistant referee, and it's got its good things and it's got its bad things. But you're seeing it's like somebody's sleeve, just the tiniest little things like that. And it's a little bit.
The goalie actually counts as one of the defenders, right? So that you have to be in.
Well, yes and no. So basically,
I've seen that you end up in a weird way where like the goalie counts as one of the 2.
Right. So to be offsides, basically, you have to be behind the second to last defender. Typically, that's not the goalie, because the goalie's, he or she is at the goal there. But between that goalie, your last defender, if you're in that space as an offensive player and that ball is played to you and you're actively involved, you're in an offside position. Yeah. But if that goalie comes out and a defender switches, that can change. Absolutely. And let me touch on the girls here and then answer that question, because I've heard. So the girls, it's really, really exciting. The boys I know from last year a little bit, and we've got a bunch of new faces, awesome. And the girls are all new faces to me. I was fortunate enough, Kent had me come in last year. I ran a team camp for them in the preseason in July, and got to know some of those girls there. But there's an incredible wealth of talent there. Like I already talked about, Riley Hutton and Abby Perry up top. You've got junior Mckayla Murphy going to be in the middle, and Mckayla is one of the most underrated players in our area, in my opinion. What she can do and what she can create and what she means to our team is so much. You've got Abby Davidson usually behind her. She's a junior as well. Abby plays strong. She's getting her touch back on the ball and everything. She plays basketball as well, so she was gone a lot over the summer doing her AAU and stuff like that. So she's just getting back into the thick of it. You've got senior Clara Double, who plays out wide for us, does a phenomenal job. She was phenomenal last night against Canfield, just worked her tail off, just up and down and in and out and open to coaching. Chloe Wilhelm is on the left side for us, another player that we're very excited about. She, again, a player that plays club, dedicated herself this offseason, went and had a great offseason, came back with a bunch of skill. Defensively, we've got Bree Sabula out on the right side right now. Bree's going to be a junior. Bree's done some training as well this winter. Another good athlete to have. We've got senior Krista Barley kind of playing our stopper position right now. And Krista is the energy of the team. She's the one that if I ask a question, she's gonna answer, and she's gonna be the loudest about it. We've got Annika Murray playing kind of like a sweeper role, and it's brand new to her. And talk about a girl that is coachable, like just shows up every day. And I do a lot with the defense, and I'm on her, but in a good way. And she takes it the right way. You know, she knows that I'm just here to help her. And she, every single time she's just improving there. Our left back is Hannah Gaither, and Hannah is incredibly talented, really, really smooth player, fun to watch, intelligent with the ball, really starting to come into her own for a leadership role. And it's nice to see that. And then we've got our goalkeeper who, Sam Moore, senior. I love Sam. She and I have a special relationship because I coach the goalkeepers, and we really get after it. And I train my goalkeepers in a very unique way, do different things with them. And she's responded really, really well to everything. And I couldn't be more pleased with her. To go back on the games you're talking about, there was one game on the boys' side. I mean, to me as a coach, it's going to be Marlington, league rival. They have, much like the West Branch girls, they have ran the league for 4 or 5 years now. Really, really strong program, turning out great players consistently. Clayton Cowgill is their coach out there. I know Clayton well, and we have a good relationship. But that's probably the one, because in my opinion, I hope that's what's going to come down to an Eastern Buckeye Conference championship game there, because in our conference, we only play everybody once instead of twice like a lot of conferences do, which is a nice thing in my opinion. Girls side, it's West Branch. It's West Branch.
Yeah,
absolutely.
We've already talked to Coach Vigo. We know the dominance of West Branch, and you guys have the opportunity to try to end that a little bit this year.
Yeah, huge amounts of respect for Cheryl and her program. She does an awesome job there. Like I said, it's a rivalry, but it's a respectful rivalry as well. Like we understand, what she's done there, and we're excited for our opportunity to try to take our place. We're very excited.
Coach, you have this unique ability of coaching both boys and girls, so you do see the both sides of it. So I want to ask you this question, because me and Anthony have talked about this, and it's been touched upon. In the high school level, soccer seems to be wildly popular, public perception, both boys and girls. Same thing goes through the college ranks. In your opinion, why, when we get to the professional level and the national level, the popularity seems to stay with the girls' side and the support, but it kind of falls off for the boys' national team, or the men's national team, I should say?
So, I will respectfully disagree with you a little bit there.
We love disagreement.
So
conflict.
The men's team, I mean, if you look like at the American Outlaws, I don't know if you've ever heard them. They're like the supporter group of both the men's and women's national team. The game of soccer is continually growing in this country, and it's far beyond if you're not like an actual regular fan of it, you may not understand where it's at right now. But if you watch even the Major League Soccer games, if you go and watch these games and see these fan bases cheer on their teams, like Columbus with their brand new stadium, there's Austin FC, the LA teams, there's all these Major League Soccer programs, teams that are just watching the game, watching their fans, the drums, the smoke, the flags, the tifos, like everything is just awesome. It's just a great environment, and it's growing more and more and more. And one of the big things that we have going is the TV part of it now. You can catch an MLS game on the ESPN Plus package almost nightly anymore. And then the same thing with, the English Premier League on Saturdays, La Liga, which is the Spanish league. There's all sorts of great soccer available to American fans now. And it's just a matter of knowing where it's at. And it's hugely growing. The girls take a huge popularity boost because that women's national team has been so good for so long. They've been
Right.
so dominant. I know they lost obviously in the Olympics there the other night, but they're just solid. They're fun to watch. It's, and everybody loves winners. And when you're winning World Cups, because
Right.
I hope that I'm alive at some point to see the United States win a World Cup. Do I know if that will ever happen? Not sure. Not sure, but it's growing and growing. And that group on the men's national team is going to be very, very good and better qualified for the World Cup this year.
To continue that discussion, I mean, we've all seen what wonders the women's national team has done for the growth of girls soccer at the youth level and how much it's really helped the popularity of it grow over the last decade. Can you talk about what you've seen from your perspective over the growth of numbers and more kids are getting into soccer because of what they see in the TV deals and the fact that it's much more accessible than maybe it used to be?
Yeah, I mean, they've made great strides on the women's side. It's a lot of girls taking the game more serious, seeing that there is, more to it than just playing high school, that you can go play college, you can get a scholarship to play in college and things like that, and get some of all of your school paid for. We're seeing at the youth level, like we just ran our youth camp for both the boys and girls. We had over 90 campers out for the 3 days, and it was awesome to see. And we had just as many girls as we did boys. And it's, something that girls are finally realizing, like there's more to, I can get a scholarship out of this, you know what I mean, if I dedicate myself. And you are seeing a lot of girls, really take on going to play club in the off season, seeking out training, just all those things. And it's really nice to see the girls game grow. And it starts with that interest from the women's national team. Like I said, everybody loves winners. And when they're winning like that, people are going to tune in. It doesn't matter if you're female or male, you're going to watch that if you're a soccer fan. And even if you're not, the regular soccer, if you're a casual soccer fan, the U.S. women are playing in a big match, there's a fair chance you're going to tune in and see what it's about and try to learn a little bit more about the game.
Coach, you talked about, too, the popularity growing in soccer. We know, though, years ago, that wasn't the case. It's been a world-renowned sport. It's been something that the whole world's kind of been focused on, but the U.S. has been lagging behind. Talk to me a little bit about what your initial interest was in soccer, why you got into it, what made you passionate about it, and what got you into soccer coaching and got you involved.
Sure. So a lot of it falls on my father. My dad was a football player at YSU, and he decided he didn't want me to play football. He gave me the opportunity to when I was in junior high. Like a lot of parents seem to kind of do that. Like once they hit junior high, you can make a choice. But my dad really pushed soccer on myself and my one of my older brothers, and it was something I just fell in love with. I loved every aspect of it. I was lucky enough. My dad was my coach for the majority of the sports growing up that I played, and having him there pushing me, you know what I mean, that sort of thing. And it just became something, I was fortunate to be a quality player at the high school level and got a college scholarship to go to Notre Dame College in Cleveland. I played for a season and realized very quickly I had no chance of becoming a professional soccer player. So I moved on to different endeavors. But the coaching aspect of it, I think just comes from a lot. Like my dad, when I was little, always telling me, be a leader, be a leader, be a leader. And having that instilled in me, and then having good coaches throughout my life that I was able to learn from and respect a lot, really, really turned me on to coaching. And it's just something that I started, like, I think the first time I coached a team, I was 20 years old, and I was a U14 travel coach of the SALEM program. And it was an awesome experience. And I caught the bug, and I left a little while to go to Florida to umpire, because that was what I did for a while for a living. I umpired from college on down. But ultimately came back, and I'm not going anywhere now. I just love coaching a high school game. There's nothing like it.
When you got started in coaching at such a young age, who were some of the coaches that you kind of looked to or looked up to for guidance and for things to help you grow your coaching ability?
One thing that I always say, a good coach never stops learning. Never. And, when I went into that first, 20 years old coaching, my father was the main person. I had some great coaches, like I said, in high school. I had Tom Wright was our boys soccer coach. I had a really great experience with him. Played for Bert Stellers and George Spack at Salem for basketball. And, I say now I have 4 pillars of who I am as a coach. One is my father, who taught me how to be a leader and how important it was to be a leader. And then I have John Collin, is on there.
That's an 8.
Yeah, I took, I specifically went and tried to coach basketball because I wanted to learn from him and the rest of that staff, TJ Irons, and, wanted to learn from them. That was the whole reason. And the one thing I took away, my pillar of John Cullen, is that you can't stop learning. Because you would talk about a guy, 46, 47, 48 years coaching now, and he didn't let the game pass him up. He's as modern as it can be. You know what I mean? Using huddle, using all the things, developing his style. So I learned that from him. Bert Stellers, my basketball coach, the thing I learned from him was how to prepare for a game. You talk about a guy who had his teams. We knew the other team's plays. You know what I mean? We knew exactly what was going on, and it was just an incredible thing to see somebody put so much of themselves into it. And I take a lot of that as well. And then the last one is my college soccer coach, Michael McBride. He's an English guy, and just so passionate about it, and built a really incredible program at Notre Dame College there. And the main thing I took from him was he made us be a team, and how important that was, because my college team, we had players from all over the world. We had players from Europe. My roommate was from Scotland. And so it was just an awesome experience. And he taught me how important it was for us to be a team. And so those are my 4 pillars of what I base everything I do around as a coach. And I've been very fortunate to coach with some great people and have some great people coach me.
Coach, talking a little bit about professional soccer, looking at professional men's, women's, whether it be in the U.S. Premier League, what have you, talk to me about some players that you've watched over the years that you might point out to your players now and say, that's how you should play or behave or act attitude-wise on the soccer field.
I like that question.
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the biggest things that we talk about is our attitude. As players. And there's a saying that I stole from my college coach called stay even. It's something that I've developed. I've said it for years. I've said it when I was at Carrollton, when I was at South Range, now Salem. It's something I live by. Basically what that stay even means is, soccer is an incredibly emotional game. Score a goal, emotions go up, let up a goal, emotions go down, bad pass. You know what I mean? It's all over the place constantly. So we talk about staying even. So we're here the whole time. Score a goal. Awesome. Celebrate it real quick. Let's get back to the half line and then let's get ready for the next set here. And just keeping an even keel. Some of those players, professional, you're talking about, you got to start with Messi. You got to Lionel Messi for Barcelona. Hopefully we'll see. He may be on the move. We'll find out here in a couple of days, but you talk about a player that just works. And doesn't complain and doesn't do. I think one of the biggest turnoffs for the average or non-soccer fan is the fouling and the rolling around on the ground that happens afterwards. It gets to me. It drives me nuts sometimes. But, one thing I always say to people don't realize, the professional players, they wear metal studs on their shoes. And if you've ever had a soccer shoe in your hand, it is thin. It's made to be thin so that way you can feel the ball, you can touch the ball, and it's light so you can sprint. So when somebody stomps on you, when a grown man or grown woman playing hard who makes, hundreds of thousands of dollars a week to play the game steps on your foot real hard, that's gonna hurt, and you're gonna roll around.
That's why slide tackles are so discouraged a little bit.
Yeah, well, it's
dangerous.
It is. When I grew up, slide tackling was a huge part of the game. And now I think a little bit has to do with there's so much turf involved now. Everybody doesn't want those turf burns because those can be pretty gnarly. But it is something that we do coach our players. Stay up. And don't get me wrong, there's times where you need to go to the ground to make a tackle and things like that. But for the most part, we want our kids staying up, and playing the ball and just winning tackles standing. But yeah, professional side, Messi's where you start, and it's almost where you start and end. He's everything that you could want your player to emulate. Obviously, he's probably, between he and Ronaldo, the greatest players of all time. But he doesn't complain. He doesn't go down easy. He just battles and battles and battles, and it's so fun to watch him play.
One of the first names that comes to mind when I think of men's soccer is Landon Donovan, and watching what he was able to do with the men's national team back when they weren't, they were qualifying for World Cups at least, and they weren't as embarrassing. So.
Yeah. I always say, and I'm not taking credit for this. I saw this somewhere and I've just adapted it, but I always say that I don't think anybody's made me hug or high five more strangers in my life than Landon Donovan.
Right. When we talked to a couple of other coaches around the area, they were telling us that there's no junior high programs for most schools. And I'm sure you're dealing with it too. What kind of things does Salem do to kind of develop the youth before they get to you in high school?
Yeah, that's one of the biggest issues facing our sport in this area. And there are some people, they are putting together a junior high league, and there's some teams that are in it. And not having those kids have like a school sport sanction, you know what I mean? Because
Right.
once they get into middle school, you're playing basketball, you're playing football, you got track, you got cross country, and it's all middle school affiliated. And now, soccer doesn't have that. We're trying to make that change. We have not done that, and Salem joined that junior high league yet because we're just not at that point. And it's a very, very new thing that just started within the last couple of years. But one of the things that we are trying to do, last year COVID ruined a lot of our plans, obviously, like it did for everybody. But one of the things that we as coaches want to do, we want to go spend time with these youth kids and be present and let them get to know us. So that way, even though there's not an affiliated junior high, middle school program, like we're still here for you. We still care about you. We still want you to come and play soccer. We still want you to be a part of our program. So whether that's, doing a youth camp and we allow the youth players to come for a youth night where they get in for free, they get to play on the field at halftime for, the 5 or 6, 7 minutes there. But getting kids to come be ball boys and ball girls during the game so they get involved, including them in, announcements and whatnot, let the players run through, just little things that we can do to create, again, going back to that great soccer culture that we think that we have definitely started, and it's just going to grow.
And it just to keep up on that, I imagine one of the big things about getting a junior high program that's school affiliated is that you guys will be able to have a little bit of control over who's running it and what they're instilling and the culture they're instilling. That way, they're running the same things you guys are. They're doing the same things you guys are. So is it hard to kind of just they're playing for whatever club coach they're playing for and hope that they're teaching them things that will come to you and be the same things that go into your line of coaching?
That's the ideal scenario. We're actually very fortunate, Sam. We have Brad Davis is the president of the youth league in Salem. He also does like the U14 travel, basically the older kids, but he's super involved throughout. And one of the things that we're most excited about on the boys side is we have this pretty decent sized freshman class. And the best thing about this freshman class is that they're friends. They hang out together. They do all, you know what I mean? And that's so important for building purposes. And that all started with Brad teaching those kids and keeping them together and having them play tournaments. And he's still there because he still has another son coming up. And there's good things happening in our youth league. There really is. So there's not this massive gap by the time they get to us, whether it's on the boys or girls side. And that's a huge help. And there's always, of course, high school is a completely different monster compared to, what they're facing. They're practicing, 2 times a week, playing 1 or 2 times, and then you come into high school. It's fun. We have a freshman, Evan Van Horn. I love him to death. And he's like, do we practice like 5-6 days a week? I'm like, yeah, Evan, we do. He's like, oh, okay. And then, and he's awesome. He's one of those freshmen that just, he's learning and he's doing a great job.
It's a culture shock.
It is. Like, oh, we practice 5-6 days. I was like, yeah, and we have film. And things like that. Like we do it the right way. He's like, oh, okay, awesome. So yeah, it's always interesting.
Talking about all those years through soccer, Coach, and your early roots starting, you said, with your father getting you into soccer. Talk to me throughout the years. What would Mike Bailey, the coach, tell Mike Bailey, the player, looking back on everything now?
That's
calm down would be the first thing I would tell myself. I was a very aggressive player. I started off as a goalie, ended up as a striker at Salem. But the main thing I would tell me, just relax a little bit. I was notorious to get yellow cards, but they were for physical play. They weren't for mouthing off to the referee or something along those lines. It was just being very physical. And it was just something. And the other thing I would tell myself is to take my training way more serious. That's always the blessing of being a coach. I think most coaches are nowhere near who they are as a coach as they were as a player, because you've learned so much about what not to do in a way that you learn this is the correct way to do it. And here's how you go about it. Everything from nutrition to fitness level, to, like I said, being calm, relaxing, and taking your training more serious. Those are 4 things for sure that I would change about myself as a player.
You were the assistant for the boys program last year, and you've been in the boys soccer, community. Now, when you do both boys and girls, did you have to really dive into the area's girls soccer scene, try to figure out who's really good, who the best teams are, what players to watch out for, build coaching relationships and things like that? Or were pillars of that already kind of built into just the soccer community?
For me, pillars are there for that a lot. I used to run Youngstown soccer scene on Twitter, which covered the whole Youngstown area, boys and girls. So I always had an idea of who was, who was winning, who was losing, who the great players were. I'm a huge soccer fan. And one of the hardest things about this year with coaching both teams is I go to games all the time. Now my time is going to be a little bit more limited there. So I'm not going to get to go to as many as I normally would. But there is a learning curve, though. Don't get me wrong on the girls' side. Like last night going in, we scrimmaged at Canfield versus Canfield and Niles, had a try scrimmage, and everybody knows Canfield's the class of the area. Everybody's chasing them. They've been the dominant team for quite a while now. Phil Simone does a phenomenal job there, has for decades, literally decades. And then you've got Niles, who I know their coach very well because he's the president of the Coaches Association. He's been around a long time. But, going into that game, I couldn't have told you the name of one of the girls' players on either side. But with that being said, the traditions, and just like a lot in high school, traditions usually ring true year to year for a lot of it. And every now and then you get those underdogs that come out and have an awesome season. It's great. But we knew we were going to have two quality opponents last night, and that's what we had. We had two quality games both times that we played. It was awesome. But there is for sure a learning curve for myself, not so much necessarily for Travis. Travis was the girls' coach at Salem for 10 years, so he's well-versed in the girls' game. So I definitely have more of a learning curve going into that than the other two for sure.
Throughout the years in soccer here, Coach, we talk about how the game has changed a little bit, how you said it was a little bit more rough and tough back then. Talk to me, though, a little bit about the challenges players have to face now that they didn't necessarily have to face back then, both within and outside of the sport.
In our area, the biggest thing you see change, like, the Youngstown area used to kind of get dogged on a little bit by the rest of the state because it was a lot of long ball. And what I mean by long ball is teams would kind of get the ball and they wouldn't really possess it very much. They would just, have an athletic striker and pump the ball long and hope that guy or girl could chase it down and put it in the back of the net. There wasn't a whole lot of thought to it. That's drastically changed in this area. And, a big reason for that is definitely you have more players more coaches that played the game growing up instead of, dad that coached football or played football all of his life, never even had the opportunity to play soccer because it wasn't even a sport. He was coaching everybody growing up and just kind of doing the best that they could. Now you have guys and girls that are coming back from the college ranks or study the game or were really high level high school players coming back and coaching. And that's why you're seeing our area change so much. You had Howland winning the state championship last year, Mooney playing for the state championship, my South Range boys making the Final Four. South Range has had, even before I was there, made the Final Four in a state championship game. And you're starting to see that happen where our teams are definitely stronger and more prevalent in the whole of the picture in the state now. And it's a huge thing for us. But players in themselves, they're asked to do so much more than what they used to be. They're asked to make quick decisions. They're asked to make, dedicate themselves to their nutrition, being able to run day and night. Like the fitness level that has to go into it is wild. And our players at Salem on both sides do a phenomenal job of getting their fitness level ready, because I always kind of say, if we can't run, we can't play, guys. It's just one of those things, you got to run in this game. And so there's just so many things that boil down. It's so tough to be a student athlete right now. It's a grind because practices are different than they used to be, if you know what I mean. They're stronger now. There's film sessions. Like we never watched film in high school. We didn't have the tools to do it, and it's one of those things now where you're asking so much of players that sometimes as a coach, you got to take a second and be like, okay, we need to give a day off, or we need to have a light day today, because we're asking a whole lot out of these kids, and that's exactly what they are. They're still kids, they still have to get their studies in. They still have social lives. They still have things to do for their families. So it's a lot being a student athlete right now.
We've covered Salem for a while. They're one of our original 4 at YSN. And one of the things you realize really quickly is how many multiple sport athletes they have and how how easily the coaches kind of work together and share their athletes. And I know Matt Freeman is a big part of that as the AD. Talk about what it's like to work in the athletics department at Salem and to work with all these different coaches and to almost have a seamless relationship with the different sports.
Yeah, it's a great place. Matt has done a great job of hiring great coaches and keeping great coaches in the system. And credit to him and the rest of the administrators for letting us do what we're doing. Let us being outside of the box on this, and having the 3 coaches. But it is something that takes communication, and that communication happens. And you got to realize that there's give and take, because like you said, multiple sport athletes, everybody needs time with their kids as much as possible. And you also got to realize, like, you can't just run these kids into the ground, that they are kids, and they will break down at some point, even though they don't ever think that they will. But it's just one of those things that we're really fortunate in Salem, great coaches all around, and everybody's willing to work together.
Having good coaches leads to good experiences and good chemistry. But talk to me, Coach, about a bad experience that you've had within the sport that's helped shape you as a coach.
That's a great
Ty's
one.
bad
He's
memories.
right. He's coming with the hardball question. I like it. I know, probably like one of the hardest things I've ever, and it's actually kind of what we were talking to off air before we started, was the Brandon Young's injury that when I was a coach at South Range in his senior year, and he unfortunately breaking his leg. I think it was our 11th game of the season that year. That was the first time, regardless of the talent level of the player, that I've had a player get seriously injured during a game. And I'll be honest, that was gut-wrenching for not because of the talent of the player, but just to have a kid like that get hurt very seriously in a game. That's always like your fear as a coach, seeing one of your players get hurt. That's the last, whether it's your player or the other team's players, you know what I mean? You don't want to see that. And that's the worst part of coaching, in my opinion, is when players get hurt and get hurt severely, and then they lose their seasons or part of their season in another season. That's definitely the toughest part of being a coach.
Seeing that was the first time that ever happened, and God forbid it'll never happen again. But
Right.
Do you think that experience made you more prepared for handling a situation like that in the future, if God forbid it were to happen?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you don't learn from situations like that, you're not doing your job as somebody who teaches young people. Like you've got to be prepared, and things like that, little light knock on wood,
Right.
They can happen, and you hope that they don't. But when they do, you hope that you're prepared and able to, get that kid the care that is needed as quickly as it is needed. That situation still, I can picture the whole thing in my head, like it happened yesterday. And it's something that will always be with me. And, like we talked about, it's awesome that Brandon, he's playing college soccer now. He got to finish, he got to play basketball that year. He got to win the state championship for the Raiders. He was on the mound when he closed it out. You know what I mean? So that story has a great ending to it. But that is tough, but you got to be prepared. You got to take things seriously.
No joke, goosebumps, because that's just a story you can't write when you talk about Brandon Young.
Yep, absolutely.
Let's go from a bad memory to a good memory. You were able to take the South Range team to a state playoffs. Put into words what that experience was like, and how much it kind of fuels you to try to get there again.
Let's start with the fuel you part, because that's I still have yet to watch that game. The Final Four game. We lost in double overtime. There was 2 minutes and 30 seconds left before we were going to penalties when they snuck one in on us on an oddly bounced ball that just bounced their way. But that group of kids have set the benchmark for me as a coach, not because of the fact that we went to the Final Four, but because of the way that they became a team. And that is something that I've stressed all along. And I stressed to those boys before our season began. We've got the talent, but we've got to come together. And that's something that I've taken to Salem, and I take very, very seriously. That if we're not a team first, none of it's going to matter. You can have all the talent you want, but if you're not a team, you're not going to reach your goals. You're going to fall short. Or if you're lucky, you might get it. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure there's a team or two that's not liked each other quite a bit and won some championships of some kind. But you have to have that bond. You have to believe in each other. You have to play for each other. It can't, and I know it's cliche and corny, but it can't be the name on the back of the jersey. It's got to be the crest or the logo on the front, that you're playing for. But that's the biggest thing that I take away from that group is how close they were is the reason why we were able to accomplish all that we did. We would have been good no matter what, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We had lots and lots of talent, but the fact that those boys believed in each other and played for each other, that's what made that team special. I still have the article from the Vindicator from that game, and it's laminated and it hangs in my office at my building, and I see it every day, and it's something that I strive for. It's not all about winning, but we all know that we love to win. Right. You know what I mean?
Oh, you said it before. People love winners.
Yeah, they do. And there's no better feeling than knowing that between your coaching staff and your players, you guys gave everything you had for one another, and you went out there and we were able to put together and come out with that win. And then at Salem, we go ring the heck out of that victory bell afterwards. But it's just one of those things that I'm adamant about as a coach. Be a team, play for each other, and things will start to go the right way real quick.
You talk about what fuels you, Coach. I guess just to follow into that question, what about Coach Mike Bailey gives him an edge in every matchup?
I think it's just I'm dedicated to our teams. I really, really want to put the boys and girls in the best position to play their best. And that's what fuels me. Like, we had our scrimmage last night, and I've already watched over 3 hours of film this morning here, watching what was going on and getting some ideas ready for practice tonight. And I think Travis and Kent both share that enthusiasm and that attention to detail that can set you apart. I'm big on scouting, and not a lot of coaches are. And I prefer to go, like, Huddle's amazing, don't get me wrong. And Huddle's one of those things where you feel like you can go out, and I have enough connections where I can get the films traded and that, but I want to go watch as much as possible. I want to be there and pick up on little things that you don't notice on film. But just the preparation that goes into practice, that goes into film sessions, that goes into game day is, I think, what helps set our team up to succeed the most.
Earlier, we talked about the big ticket game on both the schedules. Talk a little bit more about the schedules as whole of a whole, and some of the things you're so excited about this season, and the opportunities you have, and the teams you get to play, and what the overall expectations are for both teams.
Sure. Let's start with the girls this time. So the girls' schedule, we got ramped up a little bit this year. We added some more quality, higher tier opponents, which is going to be great for the girls. Like I said before, the beauty of our league is that we only play each team once. So that part of it is fantastic, because it allows us a lot of opportunity to go play other teams. Our conference is a solid conference. Marlington's always a very good girls program. That between Marlington and West Branch, I think those are the two ones that we've really got circled. But at the same time, we're not the type of team, like, we don't take anybody lightly. Like, that's why we play the games, right? Anything can happen on any given night. But I think our big goals as a girls program is win the league is our number one goal. And these super districts that they do in soccer now, where we've got a lot of new teams that we don't get to see during the season, makes it exciting, makes it intriguing. I've said I think it should be win the league, and then let's play for a district championship. Let's get there and let's see what happens, because I think we have the talent enough to do it. And then I think you guys probably know as well as I do, just being sports fans, once you get to the district, you win a district championship, anything can happen at that point, because teams are believing, teams know nobody there is a slouch at that point, but everybody's playing really, really well, no matter what sport it is. The boys side of it, the boys, I always say, John Collin always used to tell me there's light bulb moments for kids and for teams. And we just had those light bulb moments over the weekend on the boys side. We had our alumni game on Saturday, and it was the best the boys have played. And it was the first time we actually had the vast majority of our what we anticipate being our starting 11 for that game. They played, and I know, don't get me wrong, I know it's an alumni game. There's some older guys out there, but the things we were doing were so phenomenal.
Those are bragging rights, Coach.
They are, for sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. And we had a shutout, so hey, it was great. But yeah, it's just those little moments. And like talking with the schedule, on the boys side, we've got, we play Crestview, who's going to have another really solid team. Our league, Marlington, is just a monster. And it's who we're chasing after. And we're excited for the chase. We feel like we're at the level now where that game can go any way. And the boys are seeing their hard work really pay off right now. Things are going really, really well for them, and we just got to continue to put it together on the training ground every single day and continue to practice hard and believe in each other. But yeah, it's going to be a really, really fun season on both ends. And I know this probably sounds crazy, but I'm so excited for those weeks where, Monday we got a girls game, Tuesday we got a boys game, Wednesday we got a girls game, Thursday we got a boys game. Like,
don't try to call Mike Bailey.
Bring it on. Like, I'm excited for it, and Kent and Travis are as well. We wouldn't have taken this if we didn't know that was definitely going to be one of the realities here real soon. And it's exciting. It's a real exciting time of year.
Coach, my final question for you, and just something to leave the viewers with, for those who may not know you, what is your favorite part about coaching, and what are some things outside of the sport of soccer that you try to teach your boys and girls?
My favorite part of coaching is hands down, and I'm sure the vast majority of coaches would say, is the relationships you build with these kids. It's so fun to watch them grow as players and as students and as just human beings from year to year. That's the best. My favorite part is when I get a wedding invitation from a former player, or they call in. Like, I had, for this past weekend, I had multiple players reach back out because I coached at Salem on the JV side a long time ago. I'm from Salem. I know a lot of the people. Just like, hey, I can't be there, but can I donate some money? You know what I mean? So it's people showing that they care about where they came from, and you were part of that to help build that. That's definitely the best part of it. And what was the second part of your question? I apologize.
What are some things outside of the sport of soccer that you try to teach your boys and girls?
Goes back to that saying I had where I said, stay even. I had one of my former players just reached out to me a little while ago. He's a traveling nurse, and he told me that he still to this day says to himself and to other people that he works with, stay even. So that way, don't let your emotions.
That's real life too.
It is, and it's something that you can incorporate in everyday life. And a lot of my players have taken that and built it. And that brings me pride, because I learned it from somebody that I have a ton of respect from my college coach. So it's a great thing, and I think that's like a big one for me. Is like the kids still remember me yelling "stay even" and all that, and they've applied it to their real life.
So you former college player, do you ever try to kind of get back, like in practices, go toe-to-toe with your players or try to get back in the game, or have you officially hung up the cleats?
So I don't try to go, not on the big field. No thank you. That involves running, and like I just said earlier, if you can't run, you can't play. So I stay true to that. I live that mantra. But I have what I do for a living is I coach soccer. I have a training company, and I do one-on-one individual training stuff. And that is like, I'm active in it. So like, I get to kick a soccer ball thousands of times a week. And I have the greatest job in the world, in my opinion. But that part of it, yes, still active, still playing balls all the time, still teaching. But as far as getting out on that field 11v11, no, thank you. No, thank you. Those days are gone.
I want to remind people that the comments are live. If you have questions for Coach Bailey, we'd love to hear them, and he'll be love to answer his social media questions. We have so many people tuning in. They're so interested in Coach Bailey. I can see the numbers popping up. We have Brian Tolnar at 1:00. You are more than welcome to hang with us for the duration of the show, talk some golf. I don't know what your golf game's like, but he gives a tip of the week every week. Well, so if you need a tip.
My golf game is that I don't golf because I don't like to be frustrated. But I will probably leave because I got to get ready for our practice. I mean, you guys have been awesome. I greatly appreciate it. This is anytime that I can come and talk about the great kids that we have in our programs at Salem on both the girls and boys side, we're all for it. And whether that's myself, Travis, or Kent, we greatly appreciate what you guys do here. And it's awesome.
Since you are heading out real quick, when do you guys open the season, and what's the first game on your slate?
So for the girls, we play on the OHSAA's Friday Night Football Initiative. I don't know if you ever heard of that. So they do basically the first week before actual high school American football starts. They do what they call Friday Night Football. And a lot of teams in the state take that on. And so we on the girls' side are playing United at United. That's our first game. United's become a rival of Salem here, just down the road.
County,
yep, down the road. It's become a rival. So that's the first game for the girls. I'm really, really excited for that. It's a week and a half away right now, which is crazy to me. And then the boys, I it's a Saturday. I believe it's the 21st of August. I think
Right after football.
Yeah, and we go to United again,
All right.
and that's another, like I said, it's a rival for the boys, and it's a big game, and they've got a good program over there, and we're excited to go over to United there and get our test in.
We look forward to the start of the season. We wish you the best of luck. We thank you so much for giving us your time, giving us the first hour of this show. Very gracious, and we look forward to the success that you're going to bring both those programs come this year.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate it. It's a group effort, and like I said, with Travis and Kent, we feel confident in our coaching staff and our assistants that we have. It's going to be an awesome year.